Hi, I'm Ahad Ahmed, and this is my instructional prototype for EME 4673. This lesson is called Pre-Islamic Yathrib, a City in Conflict. It's designed for high school students and introduces the tribal instability that set the stage for the Prophet Muhammad's migration to Medina, which was a turning point in Islamic history. This is a face-to-face, no technology lesson built for students ages 13 to 16. The lesson fits within a unit on early Islamic history, specifically leading into the migration and the establishment of the Midanan community. It's the first lesson of Unit 3, focusing on political and social tensions in Yathrib before the advent of Islam. The lesson opens with a few questions. Who do we fight with the most? Friends, neighbors? This helps students emotionally connect with the idea of conflict, and then we zoom out to tribal warfare in Yathrib. It's a simple, arcs based hook that connects personal experience to historical reality. I then present the objectives in a warm, student facing way. By the end of the lesson, students will identify the main tribes of Yathrib, understand the causes of conflict, explain why peace was elusive, and connect those themes to conflicts in the modern world. These objectives guide everything else that follows. To activate prior knowledge, I ask students to think of countries that are often in conflict despite shared cultures. Countries like Pakistan and India, or North and South Korea. This leads into a think, pair, share activity, helping students connect current issues to Yathrib's internal tribal divisions. Now I introduce the core content, who the tribes were, how their alliances shaped the politics of Yathrib. A map and timeline make this visual and easy to follow. This sets the stage for deeper analysis later in the lesson. One major misconception is that these conflicts were religious. I clarify that they were tribal and political, driven by honor, revenge, and power. This helps students frame Yathrib more accurately and critically. Students are shown a timeline of escalating tribal tensions and a diagram of tribal alliances. These tools help them organize the causes and relationships that led up to the Battle of Bu'ath, a critical moment of breakdown. To deepen understanding, I use two scenarios, one showing a typical revenge cycle and the other showing a failed peace negotiation. And students will compare them in groups and identify what patterns defined life in Yathrib. So the lesson is sequenced using Bloom's taxonomy, and we move from the lower levels from basic recall to interpretation, comparison, and reflection. And we end with a question about what it would have taken to prevent conflict in these circumstances. Students then use a comparison chart to connect Yathrib's conflict to modern parallels like gang violence or political gridlock. This step helps integrate new knowledge into a broader understanding of human division. During the group work, the teacher will circulate and guide students using prompts and a visual checklist. This keeps them focused and supports those who might be unsure how to organize their ideas during the activity. Students work in small groups to create a conflict web that shows the tribal alliances and causes of conflict. They then reflect on why peace was so hard to achieve, and this is a central performance task of the lesson. In terms of feedback, the teacher provides real time feedback by asking questions and prompting deeper analysis. Students also review each other's work using a simple peer feedback tool. One strength, one question. It's low pressure, low stakes, and designed to build clarity. There's no formal test at the beginning. Instead, I use early class discussion to diagnose what students already know or what they assume about tribes, about conflict, about cultural divisions. Likewise, no formal pretest, just strategic questions early in the lesson. Students are invited to share ideas with peers about why people in similar groups often fight, as I mentioned before, and this helps surface assumptions and It it shapes engagement. At the end of class, students complete an exit slip with questions like, "Why was Yathrib unstable?" or "What could have prevented the conflict?" Their responses help assess understanding, connection, and critical thinking. To reinforce retention, students recreate a conflict cycle diagram. So tribes to alliances to conflict to revenge to no peace. They annotate it with an example from the lesson and reflect on where peace could have entered. The lesson ends with a reflection on why do people today still struggle with unity. This encourages students to transfer what they've learned to the world around them, and hopefully it prepares them for the next lesson, the Prophet Muhammad's arrival in Yathrib. This last section I added on, this was a prototype, and so it was. Um, I felt it was essential to have some type of evaluation in place, or a plan for evaluation in place to ensure that I can go back and see if what needs revision in a systematic way. So to evaluate this prototype, there's four things that I'd like to do. One thing is get the documentation for engagement and how students were engaged and how well the instruction worked, and also review student artifacts, whatever students produced, especially their exit slip. Gather informal learner feedback through semi-structured interviews, and that will all lead to refining the prototype to ensure that we have the best lesson plan, um, instructional design, and uh, lesson plan for the students.